everybody, it's Teresa. Welcome to my channel. No, your eyes are not deceiving you. I have the fire line out again. I never expected to be doing videos. I really never expected to be doing tutorials, and I really never expected to be doing tutorials on bead weaving. But I have had several people ask me to do some more tutorials on bead weaving. I don't mind at all. I enjoy bead weaving. I've done it for years. I can do all the stitches. I am confident in the fact that I can do all the stitches. I have made very simple bead weaving bracelets and necklaces, and I have made very complex ones. I can do all the stitches. I can follow a pattern. I will never be one to create a pattern. That's not how my mind works. I can follow a pattern, no problem. I don't believe I could have ever learned how to do these stitches from like a book or anything. I'm the kind that has to visually learn. I have to see somebody do it. I have to watch their hands. And I watched tons and tons of videos on these stitches, and that's the only way I know how to do what I know how to do, is by watching the videos. I'm not going to be showing anything different than any of those other videos do. There's not going to be anything special about the way I show how to do it, and it's probably not going to be as good as the others, because with the way my hands shake, I don't know how well you're going to be able to see what I'm doing. But I wanted to try to do it because I know sometimes you can watch videos over and over again, and then you just watch somebody else and all of a sudden you get it. It just clicks, and I don't know why that is. I watched tons and tons of videos before I learned how to do this stuff, and all of a sudden I was watching somebody and it clicked, and they weren't doing anything different than all the other videos I had watched. I don't know why that is. Maybe it'll click with somebody watching me do it. I don't know. But I'm going to give it a shot. I'm going to try to do right angle weave today. I believe that's probably the first stitch I ever learned how to do. It's not hard. It might take a while to get it. It's really not hard. It took me a while to get almost all of these stitches, but for some people it will just immediately make sense. For other people, you might have to watch it a few times before it makes sense, but it will finally make sense. There's nothing, it's not hard. It might be intimidating to think about, but it's really not hard. And I mean, if I can do it, anybody can do it. Seriously, I mean it. If I can do it, anybody can do it. I've got my fire line here. At 8 pound is what I usually use all the time. Fire line is a fishing line, but it's really good for bead weaving because it's strong, and I mean it's made to catch an 8 pound fish, so you know it's strong. They have it in 6 pound. They have it in 4 pound. I usually use the 8 pound. When I'm doing peyote, I usually use the 6 pound because peyote is a really tightly woven bead weaving stitch, and it doesn't really need as much of a structure. So the 6 pound is what I usually use when I do peyote. And I know I've got some 6 pound fire line here somewhere, but I cannot for the life of me find it. But this is in smoke, and that's black, the smoke color, and that's what I almost always use. Unless I'm using really clear beads or really white beads, I always use the smoke because it just seems to blend in with the beads better than the crystal. I have got some crystal here. It's called crystal. It's white, and for some reason the stark whiteness of the thread shows up against the beads more than the black does. So like I said, if I'm just doing something completely in white or completely in clear, I'll use the crystal. But almost all the time I use the smoke. It will come off. This black will come off on your hands. Some people take a dryer sheet and run it through a dryer sheet, and that will get some of the black off of it. But I've tried that, and it still has some, and it'll still come off on your hands. They make, I don't remember what it's called, but it's a black fire line that does not come off on your hands. I've never had any of it. It's a little bit more expensive. I can't remember what it's called, but it won't come off. They also have wildfire, and I've got some wildfire. I don't use it as often as I do the fire line. It's a beading thread. It's not fishing line. And even though it's got the same dimensions as fire line, it's a little bit thicker. This is in green. This is in gray. They make it in several other colors. I know I've got more of this around here somewhere too, but this was all I could find. I don't use it as much because I don't know, something about it, the thickness of it, it seems to fray more for me, and I'm sure that's just maybe I'm too rough with it or something, I don't know. But I usually always use Fireline. That's just what I prefer. The needles I showed you in the other bead weaving video I always use tulip needles. I find that they don't bend as much as the other, like the pony needles, and those, they just bend so much I can't seem to use them. These will bend, but they will most likely break before they will bend much. These are size 11. They come in size 10, 11, 12. The 10s have bigger eyes. The 11s have bigger eyes than the 12. The 12s have tiny eyes. The 12s are mostly used if you're going to go through little teeny tiny seed beads like 15-ohs several times, and you would need a thinner needle. I'm not going to be doing that today. I use the 11 a lot because it's a pretty good go-between between the 10 and the 11, and I just prefer the tulip needles, and that's what I use. I have got some examples here of some bracelets I've done in right angle weave. Right angle weave is just, you're just making a little box with 4 sides, and you're making right angles. The whole time you're sewing, you're just sewing in right angles. And right angle weave is a really basic stitch that you can build on to make really pretty designs. As just a simple stitch by itself, it's not all that pretty unless you embellish it a little bit. But it is the base for a whole lot of beautiful designs, and you can do flat right angle weave. You can do it in the tubular right angle weave. It's just a lot of things you can do, and you can build on it. You can do more than one little box next to each other. I've got this one. I couldn't find any real simple ones. This one, the base of this one is right angle weave. It's black, so I don't know how well you're going to be able to see it, but there's 4 little black beads there, black round beads there, and that's one right angle weave unit. Your top, 2 sides, and the bottom, and that's all it is. And then I have embellished it on the top, and I have another one here. The base of this is right angle weave, but it has, let me find my beading awl here. It has 2 for the top, 2 for the right, 2 for the left, 2 for the bottom, but it's still a little box, and you're just making right angles when you sew these together. And then I've embellished this. I think it kind of looks like a caterpillar or something. I don't know what I was going for here, but but the base of it is right angle weave. You can have 1 bead on the side, you can have 2 beads, you can have 4 beads, you can, just all get different kinds of things. You can make more than 1 box next to each other. The base of this is right angle weave, and it is, let's see if I can get it up here. This is 1 little box, 2 beads, 2 beads, 2 beads, 2 beads, and then you can do multiple boxes next to each other, which is what I've done here. I've got 3 little boxes next to each other, and then I've embellished it on the top with bicones, and that's a little bit more I guess complex than what I'm going to do today, because it's 3 next to each other, but it's not hard. It really is not, and you're just making right angles. I'm going to use today, I wanted to use I've got some 6mm fire polish beads here. I think it's kind of easy to see with the fire polish beads just because of the way they're shaped. And I've got some pretty teal ones that I thought about using, but they're so shiny I was afraid you wouldn't be able to see them on the camera. So I've got these. They're shiny, but they're a little bit more matte than the ones I had. I've got some 11-0 bronze seed beads here. These are Miyuki dark bronze. I talked in the curated bead box unboxing. There was some 6-0 seed beads in there, and I talked about how it's important when you're doing a bead weaving project to use consistently shaped seed beads. You want to get the good quality either Miyuki or Toho seed beads, because if you use the kind that came in the curated bead box, they're not consistently shaped, and they're going to completely throw off your project. If I had used like for instance the kind you can get at Walmart, the 11-0s you can get at Walmart, believe me, I've got a ton of them. if you had used them, because they're not consistently shaped, it would have completely thrown this off. If you had a big one next to a small one, it just would throw off your project. I started using Miyuki, and I just continued buying Miyuki because most bead weaving projects it's not a good idea to mix Miyuki and Toho. So that's what I've always bought. But Tohos are wonderful too. I've got some 4mm bicones here. These are Potomac crystal bicones. They're going to be a little bit of an embellishment. It's going to just, like I said, simple, just basic right angle weave is not really that pretty if you don't embellish it a little. And I'm going to do just a really, really simple embellishment. And I've got a toggle clasp here, and a couple of wire guards and a couple of jump rings. You don't have to use wire guards and jump rings. You can sew your clasp directly onto the project if you want to. I rarely ever make anything for myself. I make everything to sell, and I like to put a wire guard and a wire guard and a jump ring on there, so if somebody sees it and they like it, but maybe they would rather have a lobster instead of a toggle, I can switch it out real easy. Or if they need a little extra length, I can take it off and maybe add an extra jump ring or two. Or if they can't use a toggle or a lobster and they want a magnetic clasp, I can switch it out for that. So that's why I always use a wire guard and jump rings and to attach my clasp, whatever clasp I'm going to use. The only thing I'm using for tools is my scissors to cut my fire line, and my thread burner, because I'm most likely going to have to add thread, and I'll show you how to do that. And my chain nose pliers and my bent chain nose pliers to add my clasp at the end, and that's all I'm going to be using for tools. And of course my needles and my thread. The little tulip needles come in these little bottles with a little cork stopper at the top, and I always have extras next to me because I'm for sure almost always going to drop one. There's no telling how many needles are in this floor. But I'm gonna get some stuff out of the way, and then I'll come back and we'll start this and see how this goes. Okay, I'm gonna try to get started here. Another thing I was gonna say, I watched a ton of videos when I was learning how to do these things, and a lot of them just showed the stitch and they didn't show a completed project, and that frustrated me because I appreciated seeing the stitch, but I also wanted to know how to finish it off and make a piece of jewelry. And I didn't like the ones that just showed the stitch, so that's why I'm going to make a complete project today and show you how to finish it off and everything. But I'm going to try to make it as quick as I can and as easy as I can. I've got my thread here, and I've got about a 6-foot piece of thread. You don't have to start with that long a piece of thread. You're most likely going to have to add thread anyway. I will most likely have to add thread anyway, and I'll show you how to do that. You'll get, the more you do it, you'll be able to use longer pieces of thread. And like I did in that other video, this thread is not flat. So if you take your chain nose pliers and flatten the end, it will, I can't thread it unless I flatten the end. I don't know if anybody can, but I definitely cannot thread the needle without flattening the end. And I hope I can thread it. Yeah, there we go. Now I'm gonna double this up as much as possible so that it's not hardly as long. I've got a little stop bead here. This is just a little 8/0. If I can get it up here and show it to you. It's just a little red 8/0. And I always use a bead that's not anything like the color of the beads that I'm working with, just so that I don't get mixed up and try to sew it into my project. So I always use a stop bead, and all it's going to do is stop your beads from falling off. So I'm going to just put my thread through there. I'm going to leave about, I don't know, maybe a 6-inch tail or something like that, because I'm going to sew that in later. And then I'm just going to go back through the bead, just make a circle around the bead, just go through it and then go back through it again. Get my thread pulled through here. It's giving me trouble because I'm on camera. Okay, So I just got this little bead on here, and it will move. And I'm going to, just for extra security, I'm going to go through it again, because I need all the security I can get. You don't have to go through it twice. I just usually do, because it kind of helps keep my beads on there tighter. I'm just going to pull it through again. Now when I get done and I get ready to take this off, it will just slide off. But for now, it's going to keep my beads from falling off my thread. Now, like I said, I'm going to leave probably about a 6-inch tail, because I'm going to sew that in later. Okay, now I'm going to take my beads. I'm going to take 4 of my fire polish beads. I'll put a few of my seed beads out here. And all I'm going to do, I'm going to make my first little box. If I can get this up here so it don't blur. All I'm going to do is pick up these 4 beads onto my needle. Take them all the way down to my stop bead. Just got my 4 little beads on there. I think I'm too zoomed in. I'm too zoomed in, you can't see either. Okay, now I'm going to go back. I'm just going to sew these beads into a circle. I'm going to go back through this first bead, and I'm going to bring my thread through. And now I've made my first little right angle weave unit. That's all there is to it. You got your top, your side, your bottom, your side, or if you want to look at it this way, top, sides, bottom. It's just a little box, and I'm sewing in right angles. Now I want to reinforce this, because especially, you don't have to, but I always do. I guess it depends on how tight a beader you are, especially with the bigger beads. I usually do these. You can do it with seed beads. You can do it with 3 millimeter beads, 4 millimeter beads, any size bead, any shape bead. You can do it with bicones. But when I'm using something as big as a 6 millimeter bead, I for sure reinforce it. Before on the way through reinforcing it, I'm going to pick up one of these little 11/0s and just put it between each bead. That's just to hide the thread. It doesn't have anything to do with the stitch. It's just to hide the thread. Because if you didn't do that, I mean, you're not really going to see a lot of it, but there's a little bit of thread right there. So all I'm doing is hiding that thread with my little seed bead. It's not part of the right angle weave stitch, it's just to hide the thread. So I'm going to pick up a little seed bead, and I'm going to go through each of these beads again. And I'm going to push my little stop bead down here so I can get it out of my way. I'm going to pick up another seed bead. I'm going to go through this bead. I'm going to pick up another seed bead. I'm going to go through this bead. And this little tail will get in your way. You just have to try to hold it out of your way. Now I've gone through all my beads and put a little seed bead in each corner. Now I want to get down. I'm coming out of this bead right here, right up here where my stop bead is. I want to get back down to this bead opposite it so I can make my next right angle weave unit. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to sew at right angles. I'm going to go back through the seed bead and the 6 millimeter and the seed bead. You don't have to do them all at once if you can't. You can do them one at a time. That's one right angle. And now I'm going to go back through just the 6 millimeter bead. That's another right angle. And I'm coming out the bead opposite the one where my stop bead is. So now I'm just going to make another right right angle weave unit. Now this right angle weave unit is going to attach to this one, and I've already got this bead for my left side, so I only need to pick up 3 beads to make my next right angle weave unit. So I'm going to pick up 3 6mm beads, and I'm coming out the bottom of this bead. I'm going to go in the top of this bead, same bead, but I'm going to go on the other side of it. I'm going to just pull my thread through. I'm going to pull it tight. And that's my second little box. I've got my first box here, top, sides, bottom. This box, top, sides, bottom. Or if you want to look at it this way, top, sides, bottom, top, sides, bottom. It's 4 sides of a little box. That's all it is. Now I'm going to put me a little seed bead between each one to try to hide my threads. So I'm going to pick up a seed bead. I'm going to go back through this bead, and you want to always sew in right angles. You don't want to ever cross, and I did that a lot when I was first learning how to do it. You want to always sew in right angles. So I'm going to pick up another seed bead. I'm going to go through this. If you go slow, you're less likely to get your thread tangled. I'm going to pick up another seed bead, go through this bead, and then I'm going to pick up another seed bead and go through the bead I started with. So I've got 2 little white right angle weave units there, with, if I can hold on to them, 2 little right angle weave units there with seed beads between the big beads. Now I'm coming out of this bead. I want to get up here to this bead so I can make another right angle weave unit. So I'm going to sew through my, I think I'm already through that seed bead, yeah. So I'm going to go through the big bead, the 6mm bead. I'm going to go through this seed bead, and I'm going to go through just the 6mm. So now I'm in position to make my next right angle weave unit. So I've got 2 right angle weave units here, and I'm coming out the top of this bead. Now I'm going to pick up 3 more of my 6mm beads, and I'm going to go, the last time we went through the top of this bead. This time we're going to be going through the bottom, because that's just the way it works out. When you go around, you'll be coming out either alternately the top or the bottom of the bead that you're sewing your next 3 beads into. I'm going to sew these 3 beads. Now that's my third right angle weave unit. Now I'm going to, and I flip it over, that's fine, because it's easier for me to sew away from me. So I flip it over. I'm going to pick up a seed bead. I'm going to go through this 6mm bead. I'm going to pull tight. You're not going to break this thread. It's made to catch 8-pound fish. I'll pick up another seed bead, come through this big bead. I'll pick up another seed bead, go through this bead, I'll pick up another seed bead, and go through the bead I started in. And I think I just came through that little seed bead too, but that's fine. Now that's 3 right angle weave units. 1. Well, if I could hold this, it would help. Got 1 unit here, 2 units, 3 units. Now I'm coming out this bead. I need to get back up here to this bead to make my next right angle weave unit. So I'm just going to sew through my big beads and my seed beads. Until I'm coming out this bead at the end here. Now I'm going to pick up 3 more and make my next right angle weave unit. Now if I flip it back over, this time I'm coming out, well, maybe last time I was coming out the bottom, so this time I'm coming out the top. It probably doesn't really matter if you flip it over, it's gonna not always be top and bottom, but whichever side you're coming out of, you're gonna go around and go back through that same bead. Just pull your thread through, and there's your next right angle weave unit. Now I'm going to flip it over. I'm going to pick up a seed bead, go through the big bead, pull it tight, pick up another seed bead, pull it tight, pick up another seed bead, and then I'm going to pick up another seed bead and go through the bead I started in here. Okay, so now I have 4 right angle weave units. So I'm coming out of this bead. I want to get back up here to this bead. So I'm going to sew through all the seed beads and the big beads. Until I'm coming out just this 6mm seed bead right here, or 6mm bead. And now I'm going to pick up 3 more, and I'm just going to keep doing that until I get the length that I want to get. Let me go back and watch this and see if it looks like I was in frame at all for any of it, and I'll be back. Okay, I think I was in frame well enough, as well as I'm going to be. And hopefully you were able to see what I was doing. I'm going to show you what I do here to measure, to know how much, how long to make my bracelet. I'm going to try to make about a 7.5 inch bracelet. So I just take my toggle and both my jump rings and both my wire guards, because these take up space, and I just measure them. That's almost 2 inches. And when I connect, there's going to be a little bit of room that it's going to take to connect. So I'm going to make probably about 5.5, maybe not hardly 5.5 inches of this, and then that's all I'm going to make of that, and then this will should make about a 7.5 inch bracelet. So I'm going to do that, and then I'll be back. Okay, I'm almost to the end of my 5.5 inches, and I'm not out of thread, but I'm going to pretend like I'm out of thread, because I wanted to show you how I add thread. There are different ways to add thread. My way is not the only way, but this is the way I add thread, and I wanted to show you in case you run out of thread. I might have enough to have finished it without having to add, but I'm going to pretend that I'm out and show you how I add thread. It doesn't matter where you're coming out. Let's say I got here at the end where I was going to add another right angle weave unit and decided I was out of thread. I'm just going to go back down through my project. I'm just going to sew back down through here, and make sure you always sew in right angles. to get a knot in my thread there. Okay, just you always want to sew back through in right angles. Like I'm going to go through this bead and this 6mm bead. To get up here in the frame so y'all can see me. I'm going to go back down through this seed bead and this 6mm bead, just continuing to sew in right angles. And I'm going to, anywhere you want to, there's a thread bridge here where the thread goes through there. I'm going to put my needle under there. I'm going to bring it through. I'm going to catch this loop here, and I'm going to make a 1/2 inch knot. And you slowly pull your knot down, and when you pull it down, make sure that it comes down between the beads, not on top of the bead. And if you pull it down slow, you don't want to pull it down faster, it'll knot before you want it to knot. Now I'm going to go through a few more beads, sewing at right angles. Now I'm going to do this again. This little thread bridge right here. I'm going to go under that thread bridge. I'm going to go back through this loop. I'm going to slowly, if I can get a hold of my thread, pull my knot down and make sure it goes between those beads. Now I'm just going to go back. I do this 3 times. I'm going to go back through these beads. Go down a couple more beads, always sewing at right angles. Now I'm going to get this thread bridge right here. Go under that thread bridge. Catch my loop. Make sure my knot comes down between those beads. Just pull it slow. Okay, that's the third one. Now I'm going to go through a few more beads just to get away from my knot. That knot I just made. And then you can either cut off your thread or you can use a thread burner. I like to use a thread burner because it kind of melts the thread and adds a little bit extra protection, but just make sure you don't burn through the thread in your project though. So now I've got another needle here already threaded. I didn't want y'all to have to wait while I threaded another needle. So I've got another needle already threaded here, with a long piece of thread, and I've got a stop bead on it just like I started, with about 6 inches of tail. So I want to be coming back. I want to be coming out down here where I ended, where I ran out of thread. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to start back in here, not down here where I'm aiming to go, but back in here. I'm going to just go through this bead, any bead, doesn't matter. I'll pull my thread through, and that stop bead will stop it there. And now I'm going to just sew through these beads at right angles until I get back up there to that bead that I ran out of thread on. As long as you don't pull real tight, that stop bead will keep your thread from going anywhere. And I'm just going to keep on sewing at right angles with my new long piece of thread. And this is how you could add thread to any bead weaving project. Like I said, there's other ways to add thread. This is just the way I do it. I'm just going to keep sewing through these beads till I get back up here where I want to be. Okay, now I'm coming out the end here where I stopped, and now I'm just going to make my next right angle weave unit. And I'm going to go back and take my stop bead off, and I'm going to put a needle on this end of the thread, and then I'm just going to sew it back through like I did the thread that I ended, the thread that I ran out of thread on. I'm going to go back through and make 3 half-hitch knots and then burn it off or cut it off. So I'm going to get the rest of my 5.5 inches done, and I'll be back. Okay, I've got my 5.5 inches done, and now I'm going to add one side of my clasp, because we're not going to be down this way again. We're going to go back down through here and add just a really simple little embellishment, but we're not going to be back up here again. So I'm going to add one side of my clasp. So I'm coming out this bead just like I was going to add my next right angle weave unit, but I'm going to pick up 4 11/0s and one of my little 4mm bicones and another 11/0, and I'm going to bring them down to the bottom to the end of my needle here. Well, where'd my 11 go that I thought I picked up another 11/0. I guess I did, or he just disappeared. I don't know. Okay, so I've got 3 11/0s, 4 11/0s, a bicone, and another 11/0. Now I'm going to pick up my wire guardian, and I'm going to go through one side of one channel of the wire guardian, I think. Yeah, there we go. Okay, through one channel of the wire guardian. Now I'm going to go back down the other channel of the wire guardian, and be really careful here. When you come back down here through here, make sure your thread lands in that little channel. It's real easy for it to land not in that little channel. I always pinch my wire guardian and pull it through, and that helps it. Okay, now I'm going to go back through this 11/0. The struggle is real, you all. Okay, I'm going to go back through this 11/0. Okay, I know you can't see me here. I usually have this right up at my face. Okay, I'm going to go back through this 11/0, back through the bicone, and back through the 11/0 under the bicone. And I'm going to pull my thread through. And try not to get it caught and knotted and tangled. And I am about to get it caught and knotted and tangled. Okay. Now, I know it's hard to see with my hands in the way. I'm going to squish my little bicone in a little bit. Just with my fingers. Okay, now this is what I got. I'm coming out that bicone, or that seed bead under the bicone. I always put a seed bead on each side of a bicone because the little bicones are sharp on the edges and they could cut your thread. So I always put a seed bead on either side. Now I'm going to pick up 3 seed beads to go on this side to match the 3 seed beads I've got over here on this side. Now I'm coming out here. I'm going to go back through this side of the 6mm, opposite where I started. I'm just going to pull it through, and that makes a little V there. I'm going to flip my work. It's no problem. You can do that. That makes a little V there over top of the end of your project. Now I'm going to go back through this 2 more times, because I always like to reinforce my clasp area. I always like to have three threads going through it. So I'm going to go back through all 4 of those seed beads, the bicone, tighten everything up. It's not very tight. I'm going to tighten everything up. I'll go back through this seed bead, back through the channel of my wire guardian, back down the other channel of my wire guardian, back through that first seed bead, and through the bicone. You don't have to do them all. You can do them one at a time if you want to. Make sure the thread comes down in that channel on your wire guardian. If you hold your finger over it there and pinch it, it usually will. Now I'm going to go back down the 11-0 under the bicone and back through the 3 11-0s on the other side. And then I'm going to go back through my 6mm bead. And I'm just going to do that one more time. I'm going to go back up through all 3 of these seed beads. I'm going to go through the seed bead under the bicone and the seed bead above the bicone. I'm going to go back through my wire guardian, channel of my wire guardian, back down the other channel of my wire guardian, hold it and make sure it lands in the channel and doesn't come down out of the channel. I'm going to go back through the seed bead, the bicone, and the seed bead, and it's getting kind of tight because it's getting full of thread, but it'll go. I can only get through the bicone, so I'm just going to go through the bicone, and now I'm going to go back through the seed bead under the bicone. Now it doesn't want to. There we go. Well, I had it in there and it came out. There we go. Now I'm going to come back through my other 3 seed beads on the other side. And I'm going to come back through my 6mm. So now I've got that on. So when I'll be ready to attach my clasp here. I didn't take into account that little bicone when I measured, so I might have a little bit more length than I mean to, but it won't be that bad. Okay, now I'm going to do just a really simple embellishment here. I'm coming out this side of this 6mm bead. I'm going to take my little bicones here. I'm going to pick up, and you can experiment if you want to use something besides a 4mm bicone. If you want to use a 3mm and more seed beads. If you're using toe hose, you might not want to use as many seed beads as I'm using. I'm going to pick up 3 of my 11-0s, 1 of my bicones, and 3 more 11-0s. Now if you're using toe hose and you're using a 4mm bicone, you might only want to pick up 2 on each side of the bicone, because toe hose are a little bit bigger. Or if you're using a 3mm bead in the middle, you might want to pick up, 4, just whatever fits in there, whatever looks pretty. So I'm coming out this side of this bead. I'm going to go diagonally. I'm going to drop all this down to the bottom of my thread. I'm going to lay it over here. I'm going to lay it over like this, diagonally. And I'm going to go through this. You don't have to lay it over. I was just showing you to demonstrate how it's going to look when I get it through there. I'm coming out this side. I'm going to go in the opposite side of this bead. So I'm going to go through this bead, just the 6mm. I'm going to pull my thread through slowly so that I don't get tangled. And that's just going to lay those seed beads in that bicone over there, over that, like there. Make a little embellishment. Now I'm not going to reinforce that. You can if you want to, but I'm not going to reinforce that. I don't ever do that. So now I'm just going to pick up 3 more 11-ohs, a bicone, 3 more 11-ohs, I'm coming out this side of this 6mm. I'm going to go in this side. I'm going to go in the opposite, the diagonal side. I'm coming out this side. I'm going to go in this side of this 6mm. Slowly pull my thread down, position my beads where I want them to go there, pull my thread through, pull it through tight so that they'll stay. Now I got 2 little embellishments there. I'm going to do it one more time because you probably couldn't see a thing I was just then doing. I'm going to pick up 3 seed beads, 1 bicone, 3 seed beads, now I'm coming out. I'm going to do it sideways this time, or maybe I'll just turn it over and do it. Maybe you see it better if I get my thread untangled. I've had seed beads falling off here. Okay, let's see what I got left, because okay, I dropped some of my seed beads. Alright. I've got 3 seed beads, a bicone, and 3 seed beads. I'm coming out. I guess I better go back the way I was showing you to begin with. I'm coming out this 6mm. I'm going to go in the opposite side of this 6mm. So I'm just going to put my thread through there, pull it down slowly. Don't get it tangled around my work. Just pull it through. So there's 3 little embellishments. I'm going to do it one more time and then I'll leave you alone. I'm going to pick up 3 seed beads, bicone, 3 more seed beads, my thread's coming out this side of this seed bead. I'm going to go in this side of this seed bead, or this, it's coming out this side of this 6mm. I'm going to go in this side of the opposite 6mm. Pull my thread through, lay that little embellishment over the top of my beads there, diagonally. Now I'm going to do the rest of this off camera and I'll be back. Okay, I'm down to the end. I just like one more of my little embellishments, so I'm going to do one more with you all. I'm sure you're excited. I'm going to pick up 3 11-ohs, a bicone, three 11-ohs, I'm coming out this bead on this side. I'm going to go in the opposite side of this bead. Trying to do it so y'all can see me and I'm not getting it done. Okay. I'm going to lay my little embellishment over there. Well, there it is. Now, got all my little embellishments on there. Just make sure they're all laying nice and neat and pretty in the way you want them. Now we're just going to ignore this little stop bead here. We're just going to pretend he's not there. Now I'm going to do just like I did with my clasp. I'm going to do just like I did on the other side. I'm going to take 4 seed beads and one of my bicones. They're so tiny, or they're so shiny, it's hard to see them. And another seed bead. Drop them to the bottom of my thread. So I've got 4 seed beads, a bicone, and a seed bead. Now I'm going to pick up my wire guardian. I'm going to go through one channel of my wire guardian. Now I'm going to go down through the other channel of my wire guardian, and my seed bead, and my bicone, and my seed bead on the other side of my bicone. Okay, maybe not. Just whatever you can get through. I'm going to hold the the wire guardian and make sure that thread lands in the channel that it's supposed to land in. Now I'm going to go back down through my bicone. Back down through one of my seed beads. Now I'm going to pick up 3 seed beads to match this side. And I'm going to go through this. I'm going to go through this other side of my 6mm. I'm going to pull through. And now I'm just going to reinforce this 2 more times like I did on the other side. I'm going to go back up the 3 seed beads, back up the seed bead, the bicone, the seed bead, back around the wire guardian, back down through the seed bead, the bicone, the seed bead, down through the other side. And I'm going to do that 2 more times, but I'm not going to make y'all watch me. Okay, now I've been through my end here 3 times. I went through 2 more times. I reinforced. Now I'm just going to end off my thread like I did when I added thread. I'm just going to go through some beads, always sewing on a right angle. And don't get your work caught in it like I just did. Don't get your stop bead thread caught in it like I just did. Yeah, I don't know where I am. There I am, okay. Now I'm gonna just need to get up here and so y'all can see me. I'm gonna find me a thread bridge here. It's a little bit more in the way here with all the embellishments and stuff, but you can just find your little thread bridge there. Catch your loop. Bring your thread down really slow and make sure it lands between the beads. Then I'm going to go through some more beads. catch another thread bridge, go through the loop, pull your thread down really slow, go through some more beads. I always do this 3 times. And I got it caught in my project again. And pull through the loop really slow, making a knot. Go through a few more beads. Get another thread bridge there. Pull it through. Go through your loop. Pull down really slowly. And that's 3. Now I'm just going to go through a couple more beads to get away from my knot. And I'm going to burn off my thread. Now I'm going to take my stop bead off here. It just comes off real easy. And I'm going to put a needle on the end of this thread, and I'm going to sew it in just like I did that one. And then I'll come back and we'll put our clasp on. Okay, I've got all my threads sewed in, and now I'm just going to put my clasp on, just like we always put a clasp on. Nothing exciting. Take my jump ring, open up my jump ring, put my bracelet on, and put my toggle ring on. Close it up. Take my other jump ring, open it up, put my other side of my bracelet on and my toggle bar on. And there we go, we're done. So let me get my beads out of the way here and I'll put it together and I'll be back. Okay, here's my little right angle weave bracelet all finished. Little simple embellishment on it there. I know it's kind of hard to see those bicones because they're much the same color as the other beads, but they give it a little extra sparkle. It's a really easy stitch. It's not hard at all, and it's like I said, it's the base of many beautiful designs. It's amazing how different it can look if you use different size beads and different embellishments. It can look like an entirely different bracelet when it's the exact same stitch. I really enjoy it. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you could see what I was doing. I hope it wasn't a 3 or 4 hour long video. I'll have to go back and look. But I guess that'll be it for this video. As usual, thank you all so much for joining me today. I really appreciate those of you who have subscribed to my channel and watched my videos and liked my videos and commented. I have a website where I sell my jewelry. It's Teresa's Handmade Jewelry, and I'll put a link to it in the description box below in case you're interested, along with a link to my Facebook and Instagram and my email. If you haven't, I'd really love it if you'd subscribe and hit the notification bell so you're notified when I upload a new video. So until next time, I hope you all have a great day. Take care.